work together and collaborate between the both of them. So basically what Horizen is doing is helping and supporting to build a blockchain component for the Morpheus network. And we're going to be talking a bit more about that during this AMA, work together so and collaborate between the both of them. Support, so basically, on the supply chain management side, using our blockchain technology and our scalability solution called Sendu. But they're the stars here, so they're going to be telling you more about all of these. So today with us, we have Viglione. He is the team lead and co-founder of Horizen and CEO of Horizen Labs. As well, we have Dan Weinberger, co-founder and CEO of Morpheus Network, to answer all of your questions. So I'll pass the word to Dan so he can tell us a bit more about himself and about Morpheus as well. Welcome, Dan.
Did we just lose Danny, or is it my Zoom not seeing him?
Maybe he will try to rejoin in a bit, but Rob, okay. If you'd like to take the word first.
Hey, I'm happy to introduce myself and the org. So, Rob Viglione, so co-founder of Horizen and CEO of Horizen Labs, and just really happy to be here. This is a really cool use case for us. So supply chain has historically been really, the backbone of a lot of ideas that people have for blockchain. So blockchain has a tech stack and its applications in the real world. So this partnership is really cool for us. We're really pumped for it. I can't wait for Danny to join back and really talk about his angle for it. A little background on me, since this is an introduction also to, followers and participants in the Morpheus network. I was a physicist mathematician by background and got my PhD in finance. So I switched over to the social sciences. And really what got me into cryptocurrency back in the day was just the potential that I saw for Bitcoin to challenge just the old ways of thinking about money. I really liked the idea of just, not to be too black and white about things, but I really liked the idea of competition in everything. So to the extent that we can compete any kind of sacrosanct process like the generation and management of money, this was really appealing for me, especially because when I got into Bitcoin, I was actually in Afghanistan at the time. So I was there for a couple of years doing a data science role. And what I noticed was, well, the local currency, the Afghani, not very stable. No one really wanted to hold Afghani. And now you see in Afghanistan, the current events, what's been transpiring over the last couple of weeks, banks in Afghanistan are shut down. Banks do not work. Banks are not open. People cannot get access to their money. They can't withdraw money. They can't even pay for groceries with money if they don't already have that cash in hand. So this is not a surprise. And when I was there, people realized that this day could come. So, people were actually, at least those that I started talking to as I started getting to Bitcoin. This was back in 2013 that I started hosting seminars in Afghanistan about Bitcoin. This was a big deal to people, but the ability to be able to get their resources into a decentralized, currency, form of money, payment system that was not controlled by anybody, that they control the resources themselves, and they can go anywhere in the world with their resources. So this is what got me into cryptocurrency back then. I went to university from that tour and got my PhD in finance, like I said, studying crypto finance. My dissertation work was in crypto finance, actually looking at differences of cross-country pricing for Bitcoin and other popular cryptocurrencies around the world, and why are there significant premium differences, over above the global average price in different countries. So I looked at 4 channels and different mechanisms for why that happens. You can read the dissertation of the research online, but really it comes down to governance and different channels of governance. And this relates very specifically back to the Afghanistan story now. A country with very poor governance and a high degree of political instability, cryptocurrencies, and if not in their current form, in some future form where you have decentralized money that people control themselves, is really important. Now, fast forward all these years, and now we're looking at the tech stack itself, blockchain technology, as an extremely important offshoot of its first use case, which is in digital money with Bitcoin. Now we're looking at really important other use cases like supply chains in particular, where we can take this technology where it's about decentralizing technology where you don't have to trust anybody. The source of truth is information transparency that anyone in the world can verify and validate themselves by participating in a decentralized network like Horizen, and then like the technology that Horizen and Morpheus are going to be building together. So that's me in a nutshell. My background, I like long walks on the beach as well, and all that fun stuff and reading. But let's Danny's back, so we can hand it over for his intro.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob, and welcome back, Dan. Yeah, so I'm very excited to be here with these two crypto personalities, because I mean, I know, Rob, it's been a long ride for you, and I'm sure that maybe Dan will also be wanting to talk about a little bit about how you got involved in all of this. So please welcome and just tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, most definitely. Firstly, I wanted to apologize for those technical difficulties. I'm now in hotspot. I don't know, the internet has cut out in my area here, but no problem at all. I am back. So a little bit of a different backstory than Rob, I would say. My background itself is in supply chain, born and raised in Southern Ontario here in Canada. And for close to 20 years now, I've been in supply chain dealing with shipments all around the world. Traveled back into China about over 20 years ago, then went back again 5 years after that, and then started working on importing from China, dealing with documentation, shipping into the US, shipping back into Canada, shipping into Mexico, expanding into Europe, expanding to South America. And I realized that I can keep on growing the business, but I can't keep up with what I'm doing on a compliance level. I stopped dealing with my clients directly. It was all just automated messages. It was all about compliance and making sure I'm taking care of the shipments and logistics. Life in general was good. I had a business, a family, a child, my wife, a house, everything was good, on paper, but the compliance and the nonstop, it was almost like a mailman, I guess you can say. Like, it was nonstop with the compliance. So I had a dinner. This was a very special dinner with a friend of mine who was visiting from Taiwan at the time. He's now my co-founder, Noam Epple, co-founder of Morpheus. And we started talking about life, our wives, our jobs, so on and so forth. I started breaking down where my headaches are on a day-to-day level, where I'm taking information from one party, I'm creating a document, sharing it with another party, making sure everything is timed, exactly right to make sure all these shipments happen properly. The stress I was under, if there's any insurance, situations going on, where you're trying to backtrack what's happening, you're pulling up documents all over the place, you're trying to communicate with everybody. It was madness at the time. So we literally broke out a napkin at this restaurant, which famously I did have a couple beers. And Noam had 5 glasses of apple juice during this meeting.
The best business idea.
Broke out the napkin. We drew out.
Sorry to interrupt. Didn't realize there was a lag. My bad. Continue, please.
It might be on my end. I don't know. It is a hotspot, but nevertheless, we drew out supply chain, how it all works. We started discussing all these amazing technologies that are emerging technologies are sprouting out. This was right at the time when Bitcoin itself was making some news about always negative news, but at the same time, it was something to look into. You're seeing like, why are people talking about this? Why are they putting out even information about this? Right. So that's when I started kind of diving in really deep into technology itself. I had a bunch of friends who were, somewhat investing in Bitcoin and those sort of things at the time. This is going back to 2014, 15, and 16 time. But that wasn't my interest at all. It was all about what I was doing in supply chain. And that's when we started developing Morpheus. And now, we're talking over 4 years down the line. Our middleware is completely developed. Myself and Noam have, daily interaction. It's amazing. Just not my friend that lives in Taiwan. Now we're just like, brothers, day to day talking to each other, which is amazing. I love talking to various companies about their pain points. It's a weird thing to say because that's, it's pain, but we're looking for solutions for those pain points. So very much hands-on. I love taking the initial meetings with companies, learning about their company, thinking of creative ideas to solve their problems. And leveraging emerging technologies, as I'm sure Rob knows as well, that is the future. So we're all about digitalization and leveraging new tech in order to push companies ahead, making sure that they know that they can take advantage of these new techs without ripping out all their current systems. They can continue using their legacy technologies, upgrade those technologies, make it a more robust supply chain, create automations with all their data, and at the same time, they can upgrade as time goes on. So very excited about that. And I can keep on going about it. So let's get to the questions, Angie, and I'll be quiet for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dane, for that introduction. Certainly, I totally agree that supply chain is one of the most interesting use cases out there, if not one of the biggest ones, for sure. there's a lot of areas of opportunity there. So definitely, it's going to be a very, very interesting AMA. So thank you everybody for contributing with your questions on the Menti link. And I also see we have a lot of people live. They're also asking right now. So thank you again for contributing with your questions, and let's just dive right in. So the first one I would like to point it at Rob, and I would like for us to understand why this is important for Horizen to be a good fit for the supply chain processes.
Yeah, so right now is an important time period for the Horizen network, because we're doing that big pivot from being a cryptocurrency-based blockchain into a programmable blockchain platform, right? And as we do that, as we're rolling out this significantly different tech stack, we need to seed it with some of the most important use cases out there. And supply chain is one of these most important use cases. So there are many that are just famous in the crypto world right now. You can think DeFi, you can think NFTs, right? Cryptocurrencies. These are the things that people that are just stuck in the, not stuck, but like early adopters in the crypto world are just obsessed with these things. But going broader with the technology, like the way that we look at the tech is we are creating a future backbone for society, like another type of network that's run in a different type of way, like a peer-to-peer, completely decentralized network. And we need these really important use cases. So as we were thinking, what types of partners do we want to showcase this technology with? We were thinking we need a strong, reliable partner in supply chain, right? We just need to get this out there as one of these important use cases to show the power of the technology. And for us, the power of the tech goes in a number of different ways that maybe in future questions or other questions we can expand on a bit on how the tech works. But in general, completely decentralized tech, you can think of it as like a source of truth. You know, it's in simple terms like a massive future like on-steroids notarization system. But then it goes deeper than that. It goes in particular what we're really good at. We're specialists in like a special type of cryptography called zero knowledge proofs that really helps with data privacy. So thinking about bringing blockchain into the real world, we think it's a combination of data privacy, which is really important, like throughout every element of the supply chain, all the way to end users and customers, points of origin, but still being able to prove, you know, very important things like proof of origin, cryptographically prove all elements of a supply chain process. So that's why we were really pumped about this. It's a great showcase for our tech, both on just the pure like blockchain infrastructure side, and then on the kind of clever use of zero knowledge proofs in different parts of the supply chain.
Awesome, that's great. And my next question would be for Dan, and this is kind of like more of the reason why you chose Horizen as your blockchain partner, and if there were other ones kind of like in the mix to be your partners to collaborate with.
Great question. And, you know, I think that speaks to, you know, the development of our platform itself and supply chain in general. You know, our positioning within supply chain, we're not looking to reinvent all the amazing wheels that are out there, right? So we haven't developed our own blockchain. We don't, you know, manufacture physical IoT devices. We are by definition middleware, right? So even when it comes to these, you know, enterprises we work with, a lot of them are working with very advanced ERP systems, whether it's SAP, Oracle, whatever it would be. We're not looking for them to rip out their ERP systems whatsoever, right? They've invested sometimes in the neighborhood of billions of dollars in those ERPs. We work hand in hand with those different systems. So when it comes to these technologies, you know, like Horizen's blockchain itself, you know, we have a team of, you know, tech guys that keep their eyes out on the best, the newest, the most emerging, most amazing stuff that's out there, right? So had a couple meetings actually, discussed what we were doing in supply chain. And to be honest, you know, we were flattered that, you know, Horizen, which is, you know, has such a, you know, great name in the cryptocurrency sphere, I want to learn about what we were doing. Started talking about the zero knowledge proofs as Rob was describing as well. And as our positioning as middleware, we want to be able to connect our clients to the best possible technologies out there, you know, Zen included. And that goes for, you know, on both ways, right? So for example, Rob has mentioned they want, you know, create these solutions which allow companies to take advantage of their technology. That's where Morpheus can come in and help out as well. If Zen needs any sort of help with consultancy around supply chain, that is what we specifically do. You know, myself and, you know, Carl McDermott and Noah Mepple, we've had so many of these conversations with companies, finding out what their pain points are to get those solutions in place. And then we bring in Zen for the proper technology as well. Or we bring in our IoT partners, you know, but I will be honest, with both of you as well, with everyone watching too, that when we're talking to a company, it's all about those specific solutions which solve their pain points. It's never about this, back-end technology, which is really going to be the reason the pain points are solved, and we have the validated data, and we trust that, so on and so forth. That's all great. But if we walk into a room and say, we're going to validate your data, you're going to have a blockchain that's going to that's definitely going to go way over the head of these C-levels, which are looking at their return on investment. They want to invest money into this solution. They want to know where their money's going to come out of it, and it gets a little bit in the weeds if we get too deep into technology. So having this on our tool belt, Horizen on our tool belt, just increases our capability. Super excited about that, and really just the beginning of our our journey as a company, and Horizen's as well. So we're looking at growing in parallel together.
Can I just add here? So flipping that question around, like why were we so pumped about working with Morpheus? You can see the passion here of supply chain. So when Danny came on here, he said he spent his career, his life living and breathing supply chain. When we're thinking we want to get our technology into supply chain as backend, the perfect type of partner is one that comes with passion, deep experience, live and breathe this stuff. They can be our mentors and our guides into the industry. And they're working on the middleware element and then go to market, and we're just kind of on the back end. We want to be that boring back end infrastructure that just enables just on the back end technology side.
Totally agree. And I kind of like see, like, as you said, Rob, kind of like the passion and energy that we're putting in Horizen. It's kind of like the same as Dan is displaying it in his words, and totally agree. I think it's going to be a great collaboration.
One more comment on that, Angie, as well. Sorry, I don't know if there's a delay on my end. But,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say also that they asked about other technologies we evaluated. We have done integrations in the past with various blockchain technologies as well. So it's, let's say our client itself wants to notarize and use that, then that's fantastic. But one of their third parties or another stakeholder down the supply chain is using a Hyperledger-based system. We have those integrations to be able to pull out the data out of a permissioned blockchain like Hyperledger and still leverage Zen, Ethereum, all these other blockchains through the middleware. So it speaks to our flexibility in working with clients, allowing solutions to take place without saying, oh, no, we only handle this tech, or no, we can't work with you because you have this in place. So we try to remain as flexible as possible and by using the best techs at the same time.
Awesome. No, and please feel free to interrupt. I mean, this is the purpose of this, just kind of like gather our thoughts together and just take them out there. Okay, so the another question that we have here, I think I'm gonna be leading this one to Rob. It says, what are the potential applications of CK for Morpheus? Where is privacy on in blockchain kind of like important for what they're doing?
Yeah, so this is one that I would like to tackle jointly with Danny, because really it comes down to, like what I said before, we are working with Morpheus because they're experts in the entire supply chain business. And the way that we look at it is, okay, we're generalists as we're coming in, we're specialists in ZKP tech and in blockchain tech. So we know that, like, as we're going in, we propose things like user data, supplier processes. Maybe different suppliers don't want every node of their supply chain to be necessarily visible to the public, including the competitors, right? So these are the types of things that, as we come in, we say, well, these are some things that we think might be important. But more importantly than that, it's really for Dan and his team to say, no, actually, these are the things that privacy would be able to enable in the supply chain. So Dana, I don't know if you have specific comments where privacy would be really kind of like value creating in supply chain.
Oh my gosh, yeah, every single aspect of it, because it's business, right? And people don't want to think about business like this. Like, everyone wants to think that everyone's giving each other a fair deal, but bottom line, companies want to make profit, right? So if you're making more money on something, then you're kind of taking the other guy for more than it's worth for you. We want to make a profit. So down the line, there have these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers. You have these different wholesalers, distributors. Every single handling point down that supply chain, right down to the retail end, the consumer. You don't want people to know what you're paying for stuff. You don't want to know exactly where it comes from, because then your business is kind of ruined. And they can say, oh, I'll just go to your supplier, I'll go to your distributor, and they cut you out of the circle. So all that data is very, very important. And we're not even talking about things like banking numbers or even like border crossing numbers where certain commodities have to be attached to those border crossing numbers. If you try to transfer with someone else's border crossing numbers and it's some sort of like illegitimate goods, then that falls on you for letting that, sensitive number get out there and be used by somebody else. So very essential all the way across the supply chain. There's a lot of secrecy involved. Even with your most, trusted counterparts in business, there's still those certain secrets. You don't just tell them everything, right? So there's a lot of sensitive data and information in supply chain and global trade in general, for sure.
Totally agree. This one I would like to direct that to Dane. And it says, while supply chain data on the blockchain is incorruptible, what stops the data inputted being incorrect?
Very, very, very good question. And, we talk about this with companies all the time because very much it relies on the data that's brought into the blockchain, right? If the data that's brought in, if the IoT device is not reading properly and it's feeding into the blockchain, it doesn't matter how immutable the blockchain is, that data is incorrect, right? That is a very viable question. I think it speaks to the trust you have down your supply chain with your stakeholders as well. This is one story I heard specifically about, it was a refrigerated truck, right? And it was seafood that was being shipped in this refrigerated truck. And the shipment itself, they wanted to keep it monitored. They had an IoT device on it that had temperature sensor on it, worked perfectly. They can tell the temperature, making sure the entire time that the travel of the seafood took place, they can tell the temperature, right? The truck driver, the refrigerated truck, suddenly noticed that his truck was no longer refrigerating. It was raising in temperature. He realizes he's going to lose his entire load of seafood. It's all going to go bad. And they have these IoT devices on the top. They're telling him, this is your truck. The truck driver is going to be responsible. So the truck driver makes a brilliant decision. He buys a bag of ice and he puts the bag of ice, each little piece of ice, on the IoT devices themselves, drives the truck all the way to the other side, delivers it. The ice itself kept those IoT devices cold. The data was perfect. They had no idea how the seafood had all gone rotten was delivered because the data itself was no good. This is a serious problem. And I completely agree with this question. It's only as good as the data that's brought in. That's what we bring in as accurate as partners that we have that have dealt in supply chain, whether it's Geotab, Hanha, whether it's down in Argentina working with Telefonica as well. The devices and the use of the device, it's a huge deal, right? So when it comes to handling points, that's something that we can provide, is giving a handling point, which also has a geolocation of that handling point scanner itself. So regardless, is if someone tries to fake the data and say, oh yes, I delivered at a certain time, we're trying to bring in extra pieces of data such as geolocation to really prove that data out. Are there holes in the system? Are there holes that scammers can figure out, like the ice on that IoT device? That was quite a brilliant solution that guy had. At the end of the day, I'm sure that was discovered and they figured out that the reason it went bad. But at the end of the day, it does rely on how accurate that data is. And once again, we can provide solutions to companies on how they can avoid, scammers putting in incorrect data, but it's never proof positive. It's never perfect. So to tell somebody it's always, it's going to be perfect every single time is just not possible. So great question that people should be thinking about. And we're thinking of creative ideas all the time to sort of counteract, tricking the IoT device or tricking a handling point or whatever it would be. So thank you for that.
Awesome. And I think this question is for you both, and you've kind of been answering that since we started this AMA. But I would like to kind of piggyback on it because I think it's really important. It says, blockchain is interesting for supply chain companies these days, is it or not? And where do you both see this industry going, kind of in the long term? Rob, would you like to kick it off?
I mean, I see the industry exploding, just like the numbers that we heard out of Chainalysis last week about the industry just jumped 880% over the last year, just in terms of actual usage. So we're talking on-chain transactions and PPP adjusted value of those transactions. So it's real, blockchain is real. This tech is out there. We know other studies from consulting firms, I think McKinsey published last year, that 85% of S&P 500 companies are, if not currently working on blockchain use cases and have in-house blockchain teams, are now looking to partner across the industry to actually get in and see how this is going to impact them. So as we get out there and we realize the supply chain really drives the global economy, so much of what we do, the clothes we wear, the watches on our wrists, the headphones on our ears, all of these things are enabled by a global supply chain that is constantly running, it's constantly humming, and is bringing goods all over the world and connecting people, connecting goods and services, right? So all of this we just lump it to supply chain. And Danny can go into much more detail about exactly what we mean by different components of it. But at the end of the day, the way we look at it is blockchain adds specific value. And for us, like Horizen Labs, the vision of Horizen Labs is to provide certainty to the world's information. Here, we're talking about providing certainty for supply chain information, which drives the global economy. So this is an extremely important use case, if not one of the most important use cases for value add to massive global economy.
And would you like to add something?
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I'll sort of respond to it from a solution standpoint, and then these technologies, blockchain is a consequence of taking advantage of these solutions. And Rob has hit the nail on the head here. Like, every single conversation we have with companies obviously is around their supply chain. Margins are tighter than ever, right? They can't just decide, one day they can't, like say the Ford Motor Company can't say, let's make more money, let's sell 100% more cars. That's not how it works exactly, right? The market can only hold so much. So where they're, sort of shaving their margin, making more money, it's off their supply chain, right? Emerging tech is allowing companies to make more money doing this. And Scope 3 or, the G7 and UN initiatives for sustainability around the world. Once again, this is all to do with supply chain, that there's not, extra handling points. Where's stuff coming from? Traceability in the supply chain. These are things that just don't exist nowadays. So every single conversation we're having with companies is about, obviously, how they save money on their supply chains. And we're seeing such an explosion of, talk about, getting down to even today's, people blame COVID and people blame all these different things that are going on about commodity prices skyrocketing around the world when we're talking about lumber or shipping containers, whatever it is. It's a supply chain problem. That's what it is. With shipping containers now, I don't know if, even the Morpheus guys or even the Horizen guys follow these shipping container prices. But right now, a shipping container from like China to LA used to be in the neighborhood of like $2,500 to $3,500. Now companies are paying $20,000 to $30,000 for the exact same shipping container. It is just unbelievable what's happening. China says that on the US side that everything's congested. In the US, they're saying that everything's congested. Try to find an article on each side of it. You'll see that everyone's blaming each other and everyone's just collecting money hand over fist. That's what it is. So right now, it's all about finding those containers, the traceability of the containers, what's going on with loading them up and all that. Right now, they need to use new technologies. They need to use machine learning. They need to use blockchain technology to keep track of all this stuff as well. So emerging tech, this is going to change the world. And right now, I think we're at this point where the economy cannot handle what companies are asking for when it comes to simple things like shipping containers, let alone all those commodity prices as well. So yes, every single meeting we have is about how the companies can improve based on their supply chain. So
awesome, great. Okay, so now I would like to take us to kind of like a bit more about the specifics of each one of the organizations, and I'll ask Rob to tell us a little bit about what can Horizen Labs offer to developers, to companies, basically to enterprises, and then we can continue with Dan.
Yeah, so we have a few things. Number one, we have an open permissionless blockchain. Kind of the gold standard of the cryptocurrency blockchain world is having an open source blockchain project. We have that at the core of everything that we do, and this is that source of truth for everything else that we build on it. Number two, with Horizen Labs, we have a software development company that has a very sophisticated software developer kit or an SDK as a product for developers, for companies like Morpheus. And then we also have one of the best blockchain engineering teams in the industry, ready, willing, able to work with other companies, again, like Morpheus in particular, in this case, in supply chain, so we can actually take the SDK, custom that, tailor it to a supply chain use case, and get it out there, in a meaningful way in the market. Actually, there's one other thing. Sorry, to add on to that, the Horizen ecosystem itself is launching. We don't have a formal press release around this yet, but we have mentioned it on some Weekly Insider, so I feel fine saying it. We actually have a VC or venture capital consortium that we've been piecing together of VCs around the world that are big supporters of the Horizen project itself and want to pump a bunch of capital into growing the ecosystem. So actually, in addition, so for entrepreneurs, for developers, people that want to build on the network, now there's also potentially capital available, at least kind of a consortium of VCs that are looking to find quality projects to build out in the ecosystem.
Thank you, Rob. And Jane, before you start, I would like to also ask you, because people is asking like specific details. For example, requirements to run a Morpheus masternode, for example, the number of tokens and the hardware required. So if you would like to go a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Now, one thing I know for sure is that I checked out the questions before, and I don't know if the people give the questions get to see how many thumbs up. And this question specifically had the most thumbs up. All the amazing things that Zen's doing, it's amazing that we're doing, multi-billion-dollar clients. No one's asking about that as much as they're asking about this specifically. And the reason they're asking about this specifically is that we haven't publicly put out our report on this. So I will tell the community that we have a team working on this specifically, and they can expect over the next couple months that all those details will be released, right? I do think that the community knows that if it hadn't been released, that this probably wouldn't be the format, that they should bust out a pad and paper and write down all the details right now. So do expect an extremely detailed report, extremely excited about it, obviously. We actually put a couple teasers about it because we're putting a lot of time into it. And, I'm excited about it personally. No one's excited about it as well. So do thank you for that question, community and Angie. But do keep an eye for a very juicy, detailed report that will have all the information for you guys soon. So.
Awesome. A lot of FOMO in that question, if you ask me. Okay, so the next question would be, for example, if you would like to tell us a little bit more about your global partners and if they will also be using the Horizen's infrastructure in kind of like our platform.
Yeah, most definitely. We have partners, as you mentioned, all around the world. What the different styles of partners that we have. We have Morpheus network service providers, which are a lot of, let's say, software implementation or consulting companies. I'll name a few of them that are, we deal with regularly. Obviously, Polaris Network down in Argentina, founded by Jorge Marcos. Supply Chain Precision out of the UK, Demand Management Solutions out of Australia, Lois Tech out of Africa, Blockchain Guru in Africa and Canada as well. So we love working with these guys. And the way we see these companies, obviously, there are partners, there are multipliers, right? They allow us to be able to contact companies, all these different geographies that we don't necessarily have a footprint in. So for example, our project with Senasa, the FDA of Argentina, there is no way that we'd be able to, land this project and work with companies through Senasa if it wasn't for Polaris Network down in Argentina. So that's been our strategy for growth, is to develop all these different partners. And once again, we have different partners when it comes to technology. Obviously, Horizen, one of our newest, of course, very excited about that. Geotab in Canada is the world's leader in telematics, literally the #1 company telematics in the world. They track all the US government vehicles, UPS, Pepsi, they do all this stuff. And they allow us to have these amazing technology abilities that we can provide to our clients as well. So yeah, basically in general, our global partners, it's more so about the solutions. I'm trying to, I can't, explain to you how important that is for us to say to our global partners, we have to use Zen on every single, sort of implementation and project. That's not how we're going to get these projects done, right? It's a consequence of being able to take advantage of technology based on the solution that's required, right? So having Zen on our tool belt, it gives us that extra ability as well, obviously. This will happen in time, but once again, it is right at the beginning of our relationship. We haven't started any implementations with Zen at the moment, but I'm sure that as time goes on, we're going to grow this out together. And Rob knows as well, like we've just started together, whether it's through Senasa, whether it's through our projects in Africa, projects in the US, through FCL, we're FCL, one of the 50 largest companies in all of Canada. We're expanding our implementation with them as well. We will find the right projects. Very excited to, keep on moving ahead with Zen and with all our clients and partners around the world for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so to finish this kind of like a topic talking about the two organizations, I will just have one last question, and then we can go kind of like somewhere out of the topic questions. Will nodes be truly decentralized, or they will require KYC and potentially, I don't know, block the US and UK? Rob, would you like to take on this one before we move forward?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got one take on it, and then I'm sure Danny has another one because his is the actual business take. But from a technology perspective, we offer two types of solutions. So one type of solution is totally decentralized, and we can have a network version or a product version where anyone in the world can run a node and they can process transactions, validate transactions. They can compete to generate certificates. They can compete to bundle transactions into blocks and send them back to the main chain for certification. That's pure, open, decentralized. We have another product that we call it jokingly pretty good decentralization, PGD, kind of an ode to pretty good privacy, PGP, cryptography. So that version is basically one where the business gets to choose the amount of, say, like certifiers that they want. So they can choose their set of certifiers if they want to keep that private. And this might be an appropriate use case for governments, for particular supply chains, for companies, for consortiums, right? Where they don't necessarily need that complete anyone in the world can run the software. We're fine if a dozen of the biggest, shipping companies in the world run it, and we're all just validating this with each other. Or maybe you have a dozen of the, 24 banks running it, or whatever the consortium is. That's up for the business. So what was important for us was to provide the tools so that people can make the best decisions to satisfy their business requirements.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Rob.
Now, Rob, that's a great answer right there, Rob. And just from a Morpheus standpoint, for Horizen, you guys are thinking of different solutions that you can implement for other companies, obviously, right? But the question for Morpheus would be more so the nodes that we would run ourselves. And I have to resort back to, those are definitely terms and conditions, which I don't have in front of me, obviously, as well. We'll have a full report that everyone will know about the KYC requirements and so on and so forth, when everything's out there, obviously, in the public. So sorry for my lack of an answer on that.
No worries. Okay, okay, we have a couple of more questions before we wrap up here. This one is directed to Rob, and it says, what does Rob consider Horizen's top 3 most influential tokenomics policies? It's very specific, and it's meant for
policies. The word was policies.
Yeah, policies, tokenomics policies.
Okay, I mean, I'll speak to what we have right now, and then there's another whole question of where should we be going, because things do change, right? So where we are now, number one, the most important thing for Horizen is we have a limited money supply. We have 21 million Zen will ever exist, and that's not changing. That's immutable. That's baked into the code, right? So you have a scarce asset, and now that scarce asset is governed by use on this public blockchain. Okay, number 2, we have a very unique funding mechanism where, which I think is still way underappreciated in the world of venture finance. We have a public blockchain. We have every block of transactions that's mined on that public blockchain. 20% of the subsidy to induce people to perform work in the network, 20% of that subsidy goes into a public treasury. The public treasury now is used to fund growth of the network, to fund development, to fund ecosystem growth, to give grants to science and technology, to software development, and so forth, right? This is such a powerful mechanism. Now, as we can get into game theory and strategy from how to build out a public blockchain ecosystem, but having a consistent 20% block reward coming into a public treasury is really important. And it's great because we know we have 120 years worth of funding to the public network, right? That's powerful. Now, is that enough? Because we have other competing networks that have hundreds of millions of dollars in lump sum today, right? So they have massive amounts of capital today to spend. We have 120 years worth of a cash stream to spend, right? So then we can get into the mechanics of, how does that go? The third important thing is we also have a VC-backed software arm of this ecosystem, and this is Horizen Labs. So we raised VC capital very specifically. Number one, it signals these VCs do their due diligence on everything from team to business model to technology. And when they invest in your company, especially very prestigious ones like DCG, Digital Currency Group, Kinetic Capital, Liberty City Ventures, Sound Ventures, Lion Tree Capital, we have some of the most prestigious VCs in the industry, let alone the world, investing in us. That's signaling to the world a significant amount of due diligence that the public just doesn't get to do. And then we have an independent source of capital just sitting there in cash that helps us weather kind of market fluctuations in the cryptocurrency market. So I think we've optimized our crypto economics quite a bit, and we're doing a whole bunch more on the back end in terms of treasury management, derivatives, hedging, and a bunch of different things just to really manage risk more appropriately and manage cash flows over time, and also potentially doing another capital raise at some point to inject even more capital into our ecosystem. So This is, I heard from a VC yesterday that capital these days is being used as a sort of instrument of warfare in ecosystem building. So this one reality that we just have to face is we're going up against a bunch of competitors that look on the surface like they're significantly more resource endowed than we are, but I actually argue that we're in an extremely good position and it's just getting better.
Thank you, Rob. And now this final question before we wrap up here, because we have a few more minutes. This one is for Dan, and it says, has Morpheus network been generating more revenue from its B2B services each quarter? Very, very detailed. They want to know everything.
Very detailed, yeah. No, great question. Yes, absolutely. That is, what we do every single day is basically find these implementations. I'm glad to say that we're not pre-revenue anymore. That's an exciting time, obviously. We have, multi-year contracts with FCL, MaxiaNet, FCL. If people don't realize this, Federated Co-op, they do $10 billion a year of revenue. They're, one of the fourth largest food supplier in all of Canada, and all their food certification relies on Morpheus. And this is going to be, their system for multiple years, right? So we're gaining revenue from FCL. We've started a whole farm to fork traceability solution for them as well. This actually has direct connection to the whole sustainability issue we're talking about as well. They want to make sure that they're obviously as sustainable as possible, no emissions that don't have to be emitted, obviously, right? So very excited to be growing out with FCL. MaxiaNet out of California. It's a company that we're helping them with their supply chain and integrating different technologies, their TMS system, using all that data to push ahead and automate. But at the same time, what Maxia does is they handle the supply chain of some of the biggest companies in the world. Maruchan, for example, is the largest distributor of ramen noodles, like those dried noodles in the entire world. And MaxiaNet handles their supply chains. Obviously right now there are containers of Maruchan noodles all around the world, stuck at ports or whatever it would be. But at the same time, this is something that's going on with Maxia, and Morpheus helps them automate and optimize what they're doing. So once again, we get into our specific multipliers with the MNSPs, the service providers, but the companies we deal with, take Federated Co-op, for example, we have hundreds of their suppliers on board onto the platform right now. We're building out a vendor solution for them as well, the track and trace solution as well. It connects us to literally hundreds of companies across all of Canada, US, that are exporting out of the US into Canada, need help with their supply chain, handle certificates through the platform already. I already feel comfortable with the interface as well. So we're gonna keep on growing out with these companies. And yes, every single quarter, we keep on growing, and it's gonna keep on going for, the foreseeable future for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan, for answering that. And to me, I have to say that again, as an industrial engineer and having a background into this, I think supply chain management, it's just a great business use case. So for sure, I'm going to be one of the fans and supporters out here. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here? Dan, do you like to share with us?
I wanted to thank you guys for, putting this sort of a little event on. I know we have a lot of people watching, on the live stream as well. So I want to thank our community members as well. I know people, I saw that node question once again with all those details. I know they're expecting possibly the details right now. So I am sorry if you're disappointed with that, but believe me, it's been a long road since we've started, but the road ahead of us is way longer, way longer. So if we're saying a couple months for the rest of our lives, that's absolutely nothing. I'm very excited for the next couple months, and really the implementation of it all. For me, it's a thing of passion as well. Like, I'm enjoying the process with these companies, the crypto side of things, the business side of things, talking to the community members, whether it's DMs, phone calls, whatever it is. And anyone has any questions for me specifically, I say this every single time I get a chance to, reach out to me directly. I reply to literally every single email, every single DM, whatever it is. Even if it's something that I'm like, I shouldn't reply to this, I will say, hey, I can't reply to this. So I'll let you know that I'm around. So thank you guys for watching. And thank you, Rob. And thank you, Angie, as well.
Thank you, Dan. Rob, any final thoughts?
Yeah, the way we look at business is instead of product market fit, which we do that kind of analysis as well, we really think of community fit. So for us, it's all about building community, working with other really, really cool and excited communities. So we're really pumped about this relationship with Morpheus. really happy we're able to have this introduction to both communities jointly. So Danny, thank you for doing this. And Angie, obviously for doing an amazing job hosting as always.
Awesome. Thank you both for being here in this great AMA for the community, for the people watching on YouTube, asking their questions. They seem to be very eager and interested, that's for sure. And yeah, thank you again for joining us today. Please make sure to check out our blog post with more details of this collaboration, the Morpheus Network website and our Horizen website as well. And just we'll keep you posted on more exciting news. Have a great day, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.